So I want to start by illustrating a story from my own life that goes back to a very early life experience that actually set me on a leadership path that wasn't the one I was meant to be on. So I'm going to share actually a story that I talk about as a stuck story or a constraining story, and how my own leadership journey has been a lifetime of shifting that story to being who I want to be in it. So this story begins when I was actually 8 years old on Christmas Eve, going to church with my family. It's Christmas Eve service. It's a candlelight service where it's carols and lessons. As you can imagine, at 8 years old, I am filled with the excitement of the holiday and all that's coming. To picture me, I have no front teeth. I have a little pixie haircut. I am wearing a green velvet dress and black patent shoes and white ankle socks that have little flowers on the ankles. I have white gloves. It's approximately 1962. I'm sitting between my mother and my father, and my 3 older siblings are as far down the row as possible so that they don't have to be close to either me or my parents, both for different reasons. As we work through the hour and the carols keep coming, and I realize we're building to this crescendo that's going to mean then we get to go home and open the first present, which we always had one on Christmas Eve, my excitement is bursting. We begin the carol that is Angels We Have Heard on High, that builds with this chorus of glory, that builds and builds until you're just, or I was just, letting the Gloria burst out. At which point, my father leans down and just puts his hand over mine. Well, that became a very powerful story for me, because in that moment, I was at first confused and then shamed. In fact, thinking, I'm too big, too loud, too much, and I'm an embarrassment. I really have to keep a handle on this, or I'm going to get in trouble. So that one moment became a story that I began to build on, and to stop actually singing out loud in church, I started to mouth the words. And that's eventually unfolded to high school and college, where I didn't raise my hand so often because I didn't want to be too big, too loud, too much. When we have one of these stories that begins to define us and who we are, what happens is that we look for other stories that confirm this, and those that don't, we push off to the side. So when other people would say, oh, you have a nice speaking voice, have you thought of singing? I'd say, no way. Or in college, when teachers would say, you wrote a paper that was really interesting, why don't you speak up more in class? I knew that I didn't want to embarrass myself. Here I am now, 50 years later, and I'm standing in front of a room of 200 people, and I even sang for about 3 seconds. I don't know if you noticed. And I have spent my lifetime in this leadership journey of reconnecting to my spirit, my gifts, my wisdom, my knowledge, to share who I am with others in a way that fits my values, and not to let early or constraining stories hold me back in that. But it's been a lifetime journey. All of these early life experiences have led us to the point of where we are, and to become aware of those stories and which ones support us in becoming who we want to be and which ones hold us back, to continually be confronting those so that we can step out into the leadership journey in the way that we want to. To close, because I know that there's a party to get to where I hope you're going to practice all these skills throughout the rest of the evening, I want to share with you a part 2 of my own story. So as I said, I've been working for 50 years in letting go of what I call a constraining story and moving into a sustaining story that can hold me in my own leadership journey of being a presenter, a coach, a storyteller, a speaker. But they say that the place where you are wounded becomes stronger as a scar, but in fact, I feel we're always vulnerable in certain stories in our lives. And things can happen that deflate us, that take what's a very thick and sustaining story and deflate it very quickly so that we are lost. 2 years ago, my husband and I are running into church late as usual, I must admit. They're already singing the opening hymn, which is Cat Stevens' Morning Has Broken, which I just think is a wonderful way to start church. And I think, I don't need to open the hymnal. I got this. I mean, I grew up with Cat Stevens. He's like family. So my husband dutifully opens the hymnal and finds the right page, and I just start belting out, Morning is Broken. And totally unaware that I'm singing totally different words from everybody else in the church. But it's not a problem for me. But my husband, who is trying to do it right, looks at me and he just goes, that's all it took. It was a movement of the hand with that question, and I sat down. All of a sudden, I was 8 years old, and I thought, I'm too much, I'm too big, I'm too loud. And then with that deflation of the story, I started to question everything I do. How can I be a coach? How can I be a professional storyteller? How can I be a parent? How can I be a wife? And then I thought, why am I married to him? It was all like 30 years of marriage gone in that moment. Now, the good news is, because I'd been working on this constraining story for 50 years, now when it got deflated back to being 8 years old again in that moment, I had the skills and the tools to re-inflate it. So lucky for him, it only took about 10 minutes for me to, by the time the next hymn was on, I stood up and I wasn't mouthing the words, I was singing again. Granted, I was reading the hymnal and trying to stay with it, but I was back in my full potential of who I am and who I can be without this deflating me. This is about story resilience, of knowing which stories deflate us, which ones inflate us, give us the strength to put ourselves out there, which stories we want to help others who we are colleagues with, who we are managing, who we are trying to get to know, which stories are we going to pull so that each of us can stand in our full potential and be who we are. And as women leaders in this company, your stories are so important. So I invite you tonight to find your voice, to find the stories that truly share who you are, the values that resonate for you, who you want to be in this company, and just let them emanate. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy your evening.